we are facing a tsunami. And the tsunami is that AI, tech, robotics, etc. are making us obsolete. So either we are victims or we flourish in an environment like that.
Welcome to International Business Today, where we discuss the most critical issues in international business with top academic experts and thought leaders. I'm Paula Kelajuri, a professor in the International Business and Strategy Group at Northeastern University's DeMoore McKim School of Business, the sponsor of this podcast. Today, I am thrilled to be joined by the President of Northeastern University, Joseph Aoun. With his leadership, Northeastern has become one of the greatest global transformations in higher education. President Aoun is widely recognized for his innovations in higher education. He has been awarded the Carnegie Corporation of New York's Academic Leadership Award and the Educator of the Year by the Academy of International Business, and many other awards I just don't have time to name. He is the author of numerous articles and books, including Robot Proof, Higher Education in the Age of Artificial Intelligence. Joseph, welcome to International Business Today.
Thank you, Paula. It's great to be with you again.
Oh, it's nice for you to be here with us. I'm really excited to talk about Robot Proof to start.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that was a call to action for universities to help prepare learners for this digital economy, for the global economy. What was your motivation behind writing the book?
Well, it was clear that 7 years ago, 8 years ago, 9 years ago, people were talking about AI and how AI is going to change the workplace, how it's going to displace people. And economists started arguing and discussing, is AI going to displace 50% of the jobs we know and make them obsolete, or is it going to be 30% or 40%? And it was clear that the transformation will be radical. Therefore, we said to ourselves, as a community here at Northeastern, what is the purpose of education? The purpose of education is to help people navigate this enormous change and help them become robot-proof. And that was the idea.
Yeah. So what skills that did students need, or do students need now to robot-proof their careers?
It became clear to all of us that becoming robot-proof is a lifelong learning journey. If we start with the students who are in college, what do they need to do? They need to understand machines, the product of these machines, and then they need to also focus on what we humans can do that machines for a foreseeable future cannot duplicate. So essentially we said that every student, every learner in college should master 3 literacies: a tech literacy, which is understanding machines and how to interact with machines; data literacy, which is understanding the product of these machines; and the human literacy, which is what we do again, that machines cannot duplicate for the foreseeable future. What are these? Some of these literacies, the human literacies that I refer to, is the ability to be entrepreneurial, the ability to be innovative, the ability to be culturally agile, and that's your work.
Near and dear to my heart, yes,
the
indeed.
ability to understand people, to understand how people interact, how people work together, how people come together, the ability to be ethical, the ability to be leader. We said that the 3 literacies, the tech literacy, the data literacy, and the human literacy, are what we call humanics. So essentially what we're saying, a student in college should master humanics, no matter what they want to study, what they want to do. That's part of the curriculum that needs to be with them. So that was the first step.
Yeah. So how could universities get our learners there? How could they help them master humanics?
In fact, in many ways, Paula, the learners are ahead of us. Because if you look, for instance, at what's happening at Northeastern, we have something that is called combined majors. Those are not double majors. Those are not majors and minors. Those are combined majors. Combined majors integrate different disciplines, based on humanics mostly. So if you're interested in the environment, if you're interested in AI, for instance, you are looking at the AI from multiple points of view. You're looking at it from obviously a tech point of view, but you're looking at it also from issues that are pertaining to humans. Can we build an ethical AI? How can we integrate the notion of privacy? What are the implications for society? Is it going to be increasing inequality or not? So, for instance, this combined major focusing on integrating AI and ethics is a manifestation of humanics. And so if we look similarly for studying sustainability or the environments, you're always integrating the human aspect with it. And our faculty colleagues are building them. And the students, when I mentioned that the students are ahead of us, is because the students are eager to take these combined majors, and they are now the most popular offerings for them. So essentially, if you want, the students realize very quickly that this is where they should go. It's not the notion of having a classical major and supplement the major with another minor. It's try to think about issues from a humanics perspective.
So it's really given the students a choice to really drive their destiny, their direction, but also through the lens of humanics. It's offered here at Northeastern, and you'd hope would be offered at other institutions as well.
Hopefully. We said, look, robot proof is a lifelong journey. It starts with that, with humanics. It's not enough. You have to embed that. You have to study and live in an experiential environment. And that's experiential education, and this is what Northeastern is very well known for. We are a leader, a worldwide leader in this domain. So what is experiential education? Experiential education is the integration of the classroom instruction with the world instruction. I say often that the world is too interesting to ignore. So we don't want our students to spend their 4 years in a bubble, in one environment. We welcome them to Northeastern and we say, go explore the world. And co-op, which is a long-term internship up to 6 months, is the core of this experiential education. They go there embedded in a workplace. We have 3,000 companies worldwide in 146 countries. And why are we offering that? Because experiential education centered on co-op is allowing the students also to become robot-proof. Why? How? They understand what they're good at. They understand what others are good at. They understand how to work in multicultural environment. They understand how to work in teams. They understand how to see opportunities and be innovative. And very often they come back and they say, I was in an enterprise, in a company, not for profit, and they saw a gap. And they come back and they tell you, well, I can launch something, whether it's for profit or not for profit, to remedy this gap. So you see, this allows them to further their robot-proof journey. Why? Because a robot cannot be a leader. A robot cannot be culturally agile. A robot cannot understand people in multiple settings, and we do. So essentially what you're doing with the experiential education is furthering your human literacy and furthering your edge over machines.
It enables our students to understand the environment and respond to it as needed. It's so central. And shape it, but
Absolutely.
It's so central for everything we know about building cultural agility, at least from my lens.
Absolutely.
That we do need to give ourselves an opportunity to expand in that contextual novelty and learn how to be effective.
So that's a contextual novelty and learning in multiple contexts and shaping and contributing and being engaged in multiple contexts. That's so precious. This is what we do well. If you want to go even further, there is something that humans do, and it's called file transfer. We know how to take a knowledge that we acquired in one domain and apply it to a very distant domain. And experiential education helps you to do that. You're essentially applying your education in one domain and taking your education from one domain and applying it to another.
Yeah.
And the other can be very, very far from what you studied. And we have examples of students doing that constantly.
What do you look for?
Let me give you an example.
Yeah, I'm here.
So we had some time ago, we had a student studying English. She went to Bosnia when there was a war and worked with an NGO. And essentially what happened there, that, snipers were generating fake news and saying this street, this road, this bridge, they all are safe. They're waiting for people, and people got killed. So she devised a program to debunk this fake news immediately, and saved lives like that. Because they said, no, this is fake news, don't go there. So when we asked her, how did you do that? How did you manage? You're studying English, and suddenly you built software that is telling people, look, this is fake news, be careful, this bridge is not safe, this street is not. She said, that was easy for me, because when I study an English text, I deconstruct the text, I analyze it. And I took that and applied it to propaganda and fake news, and was able to immediately help people. But also I needed some extra competence, tech literacy, data literacy. She worked with others to acquire it and to have it, and to build the software that was helping people. So if you look at what she has done, she took her knowledge in one domain, applied it to a different domain that is not as close as the original domain. That's called file transfer. There are many other examples. Machines cannot do file transfer.
Beautiful example.
So that's something
powerful.
we do well. So the whole idea behind humanics and experiential education is that understand machine and understand what they can do, where they are better than we are, and at the same time hone your skills, the skills that will give you an edge over machines, because machines cannot duplicate them. That's the human literacy.
What can organizations learn from this? So we're talking a lot about how we at Northeastern or universities can help our learners build these skills around humanics, but what can organizations do to help their employees build skills around humanics?
So there are many things that organizations can learn. First, once again, as I mentioned at the onset of our discussion, Paula, being robot-proof is a lifelong journey. So it doesn't mean that when you finish your undergraduate education that you're set for life. Why? Because the world is changing. Machines are accelerating the change. Jobs are going to become obsolete. There will be new jobs created. So we need to constantly reinvent ourselves, reskill ourselves, upskill ourselves. And this is something that a company would need, an enterprise would need, society would need, and we as an individual, we need that. Because if we're becoming obsolete, what is our role in society? How can we contribute and flourish and be happy in a society if we are completely on the side? So that means that lifelong learning is going to be with us. Companies have to facilitate that for their own interest, not only the interest of their employees and their learners, but for their own interests. So that's something that companies can further. And indeed, if you look at what's happening in the world, there are many companies that are giving incentives for their employees to reskill themselves or reinvent themselves or upskill themselves, given the new domains, the new fields that are being created. We can even go a step further. If you look, for instance, at some countries, the UK, for instance, is asking some enterprises, the large, medium to large ones, to set aside a percentage of their payroll for lifelong learning. Singapore does it in a different way. Singapore is giving every citizen a lifelong learning account that they can use. But the common denominator is very simple. We all need to reinvent ourselves. And higher education has a responsibility here, because higher education looked at lifelong learning as a second-class operation in general, not as part, not being part of the core. And that has to change, because take, for instance, in the United States, the need is there. At the same time, the overwhelming majority of learners now are lifelong learners. Why? Because we have an aging population. The percentage of 18 to 22 undergrads is shrinking. And the overwhelming majority of learners are lifelong learners and they need to reinvent themselves. If we ignore them, or if we don't meet their needs, they'll have to find it elsewhere. That is a danger for higher education, because our mission is education. Our mission is not to educate 18 to 22 only. So we risk becoming a little bit like the railway industry, because when they saw the onset of the airline revolution, what did they say? Oh, this is not for us. We are in the train business. They didn't think of themselves as being in the transportation business. Right. And our mission here is education. It's not educating 18 to 22 only. It's educating people for life. And that's the opportunity.
So how can organizations partner with universities? What would be your
I will change it in the following way. How can universities partner with educations? We have to go to them and not expect them to come to us. And that's what we have been doing for over 100 years. That's why we have 3,000 companies and organizations and not-for-profits working with us in all these countries. Why? Because you have to understand their needs. What kind of needs do they have? What kind of talent do they have? How can they attract new talent, and how can reskill their talent? And you have to do it by being very humble and listen. And then you have to devise curricula, programs that will meet their needs. Higher education in general is built on the assumption that, okay, let me devise a curriculum, a new program, and they will come. No, it doesn't work this way. Right. When you're working with adults, or actually when you're working with everybody. So you have to understand the needs of the enterprise, and you have to be ready to deliver that, and deliver that in ways that sometimes may lead you to deliver it in the enterprise itself. Nice. So when you start working with lifelong learning, what we traditionally do has to be rethought. You have to go, we have to go, you as an educator, I as an educator have to go to the enterprise or to where people have needs, understand the needs, and devise programs. And I can give you examples about that.
Please, yeah, I'd love to hear.
So we have something here at Northeastern that was pioneered by our faculty colleagues. It's called Align. And what is Align? The tech industry, we have a campus in Seattle, in Silicon Valley, in San Jose. The tech industry said, we don't have enough of a pipeline for talent. We need more computer scientists. So we thought hard about how to do it. And our colleagues devised a whole new curriculum where we take people who are in the workplace. They studied English, they studied history, physics, chemistry, business, whatever it is. And then the companies and enterprises will give them an extended co-op of 12, 16, 18 months. And during this period, they do experiential learning, and we provide a full curriculum that is experiential, that will help them become computer scientists, and they will get a master's degree. When we launched it, we didn't know whether it was going to work. It worked so well that it became extremely popular, in demand, but also it had benefits that we didn't foresee.
Like what?
For instance, it allowed women to integrate the tech fields. It allowed underrepresented minorities to integrate the tech fields. And you know, when you look at the tech fields, there is a paucity, a shortage of women and underrepresented minorities. Why? Why did it allow them? Because suddenly they studied English history or physics or chemistry or biology or art history, and they said, I am not going to be able to make it in the tech world. Now you have a tech degree. You end up with a master's degree. It has been extremely, extremely popular and impactful. Now, to the point that, in fact, there are many lessons for higher education. The first lesson is that what you studied as an undergrad doesn't determine the second phase of your reinvention and your study. Second, we have to allow people to reinvent themselves, and our job is to help them do it. So forget about the prerequisites. You cannot go into a master's in computer science unless you have an undergraduate degree in computer science. That's gone. So this has been noticed. And Melinda Gates gave us a lot of support, and Google and Facebook, in order to build a consortium of universities in order to help them integrate Align-type programs in their curricula. So you see what's happening. We are not going to be able in higher education to be doing what we have been doing for 200 years. We have to rethink it precisely in order to understand how we can help people continue their robot-proof journey on a lifelong basis. And that's the beauty of being an educator.
And is that, you're so good at seeing what's around the corner in higher education, is that what's around the corner next? Do you think that other universities will be following what we're doing here?
We have a consortium, and this consortium, for instance, has been very, very much in demand by other universities. They wanted to be part of that. So when you ask me, is this what's next? What's next is that we are facing a tsunami. And the tsunami is that AI, tech, robotics, etc., are making us obsolete. So either we are victims or we flourish in an environment like that. How do we flourish? Through lifelong learning, through reinvention. We have to reinvent ourselves constantly. And that's the opportunity for universities. We are going to help you reinvent yourself.
It's also very motivational for a listener out there who's in their career and looking to what's coming next. So take control of your career and robot-proof it.
Absolutely.
Learn humanics.
Absolutely.
Come to Northeastern.
And no, universities will come to you. And that's why we build the global university system. Because we understand that, people don't have the time. So that's why we built a network of campuses in the United States, in Canada, and we are also, as you know, in the UK.
That's actually what I want to talk about next. Joseph, Northeastern has become a massive global network. What was the motivation behind it? And then we'll talk a little bit about the strategy. And
the original motivation, we said, look, people who are in the workplace, who have full-time jobs, don't have time to go back to college or go back to the university. So we said, what if the university comes to you? If you're in Seattle, if you are in Silicon Valley, if you are in Charlotte, if you are in Toronto, Vancouver, Portland, Maine, or Arlington, Virginia, or London, And so that was the first step. The original motivation was to allow people to have lifelong learning opportunities and reinvent themselves. We also realized that once you have that, those campuses are a platform for the whole university. So you have the opportunity to do research in different contexts. You know, whether you are in Seattle, or whether you are in the UK, or whether you are in Canada. You know, the research opportunities that you have are very diverse and different. So you can really play a role in doing research in different contexts, different environments. If you want, research becomes experiential too. And at the same time, for our undergraduate students, we realize that this will give them the opportunity to be mobile. So if you want to spend a year in the Bay Area, we have a campus, a beautiful campus, because Mills College merged with us. So you can spend a year there. No matter what you do, you will have a focus also on entrepreneurship and humanics. So you can spend a year or a semester in Silicon Valley, a year in Boston, if you choose, and a year in London. Students want mobility. They don't want to be confined to an environment for 4 years. And we're giving them the opportunity to have this mobility, but also to be contextual. Namely, what is being offered in London is different from what is being offered in Boston or in Silicon Valley. And that's the beauty of that. So, for instance, you know that in Silicon Valley, we offer a semester of entrepreneurship, where people are taught by also people who launch companies, and in the afternoon they're embedded in these companies. That's a different experience from the entrepreneurship environment that you have in Boston or in London. So that, is something that enriches the students. So what we are building is a network, a global university system that allows the university as a whole to be present wherever the learner is.
So what have been some of the challenges in running this global organization?
The first thing is that when you come to a new environment, whether you are in Seattle or Toronto or Vancouver or London, or whatever, you have to spend time understanding what people need, what they are hoping to have. You cannot go and say, I'm going to devise curricula, opportunities for everybody. You have to understand what the needs are. And in so doing, you have to spend a lot of time with civic leaders, political leaders, head of enterprises, survey individuals, and spend time understanding the environment that you are going to be part of. Because ultimately, if you think about it, Paula, every university is allowed to exist and to function because we enter into social compact with society. And we tell society, we are going to educate the citizens, and at the same time, we are going to have new discoveries that will impact lives. And because of this, we are given the status of not-for-profit, and we are given support, and we are tax advantaged in many parts of the world. So when you go to a new place, understand the place, enter into a social compact with the community so that you are there to engage with this community, to impact the community with it, and then to provide solutions. So that's the first thing, the first advice. And it takes time. So, it takes a couple of years before you start a new campus.
It's a great example of contextual humility.
Absolutely.
And it's one of the key competencies for culturally agile people. So you have to be culturally agile every time you're going in.
And I love what you said, contextual humility.
Yeah.
And that's the main factor. Understand your environment, be sensitive to the needs, and become part of this environment. That's the meaning of a social compact.
Absolutely. Any other challenges that you've experienced? I mean, any advice through those challenges
Well,
that you've
you
been getting?
alluded to one.
Yeah.
In not only in your work but today too, where you said, look, when you have a presence in different cities and different environments, how do you maintain a cultural harmony for the Northeastern community?
Yeah. Will it feel like Northeastern everywhere around the world?
Yeah,
or,
and that's
or will
true for the staff, for the students, and the faculty. That's why we spent a lot of time thinking about the essence of Northeastern. We devised it. It's a part of our strategic plan, if you recall, in Northeastern 2025, and we maintained it in the new strategic plan. And essentially, we're saying if this is the essence of Northeastern, this is something that we are going to live wherever we are. So that allows us, to keep, the whole community together. What are some of the characteristics? We are student-centered. We are entrepreneurial. We have contextual humility. Our role is, and our mission is to impact society, to engage with society, and not to build an ivory tower. Those are some very superficial aspects, but ultimately it boils down to the same thing.
There are values.
Yeah.
Right.
What are the values of this community? And that's what we spend time honing all together and living. And we live them wherever we are.
So Northeastern is like a lot of other global organizations where, there's some things that are non-negotiable. These are our values, our ethics.
Absolutely.
This is how we live. There are some things that need to be adapted depending on the context that you're in and the country that you're in. And then there's some things that need to be integrated it's not going to look like either of the extremes, but it's going to look like something brand new. And those three really do and are present in most international organizations.
Yeah, the university is a living organism.
Right.
But now it becomes way more exciting because higher education, historically built a congruence between the university and the campus. So if you think about University X, you say, where is Stanford? You say it's Palo Alto, etc. So their identity is rooted with their campus. In fact, COVID was a wake-up call because essentially the campuses closed, but the university didn't close. Well, at Northeastern, we realized way before that, before COVID, that this is true because once you have more than one campus and you have a global network, you realize that the university is not defined by its campus. It's defined by its people, its values. That's what we discussed. Therefore, by its differentiation. Therefore, that's what we are honing. Every global organization has the same opportunity.
Absolutely. So, Joseph, you are a leader, a global leader of this global university. What advice would you give other global leaders out there who are trying to do a brand expansion, an extension of their own companies?
In the business literature, there is a distinction between being multinational and being global. Multinational means that you are in different countries, but the headquarters decide on everything. Being global means that you have a network and you're allowing the network to really foster innovation wherever it is, wherever they are, wherever people are. So, for instance, if you look at businesses, historically, the car industry was viewed as a multinational company because everything is decided in the headquarters. The software industry, on the other hand, is different because when, for instance, they set up an enterprise in Beijing, another one in London, and a third one in Brazil, they noticed that those enterprises are creating products that are relevant not only for Brazil or London or wherever, but they're relevant worldwide, even for where the so-called headquarters are. So essentially, the software industry allowed people who are in part of the network to create new products that are relevant for where they are, but also for the network as a whole. And also one of your colleagues, Ravi Ramamurthy, talked about the phenomenon of reverse innovation, where they can create opportunities and products that are at a cheaper and that will invade the more advanced economies too. And he had many examples of that. So now, if you think about universities or enterprises, the question that every leader has to ask themselves: do I want to be a multinational, or do I want to be global? Global fosters innovation in all the nodes. Multinational restricts it, and being simplistic on purpose, to the headquarters. So clearly now we have opportunities to foster innovation, and we are seeing at Northeastern that the various campuses are innovating, and the innovations that are happening are permeating now the whole network. And that's what's exciting.
It's exciting, and it's an excellent piece of advice for all global leaders, and that is to have that cultural humility to realize that great ideas can come from any part of the world and any part of the network. So Joseph, thank you. Thank you so much for being a part of International
Paula.
Business Today.
It's always good to be with you. Always great. And thank you for all the great work you do. Thank you.
Thank you. To our listeners, thank you for joining us for today's episode of International Business Today. If you enjoyed it, please share it with your network. As always, we'd love to hear from you.